Guys, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thumbs the video up if you enjoyed the video. Do you guys remember back in the day when there was a unified heavyweight champion of the world named Wladimir Klitschko? Do you guys remember during this particular time there was a young heavyweight contender by the name of Deontay Wilder? Do you guys remember that during this particular time many boxing fans were criticizing Mr. Deontay Wilder on his resume, saying that why is he fighting guys that haven't fought in 3.5 years? Why is he fighting guys who belong in fucking Walmart, who should be working in Walmart? They were asking him to face a guy with a post, and many boxing fans were asking him to face Wladimir Klitschko. Of course, we know what happened. His team says he was too green. Deontay Wilder had 29, 30 pro fights, and he was too green. See, he just wasn't ready. He's only been a pro for 5 years, and he has 29 pro fights. He's too green. That's what they were saying when it came to... that was the excuse they were saying, or they were giving, as to why Deontay Wilder shouldn't be facing Wladimir Klitschko. Fast forward 2 years later. Fast forward 2015. Deontay Wilder wins a portion of the heavyweight championship of the world, which is, of course, the WBC championship of the world. Right? That same year, Wladimir Klitschko defends his belt. He goes to New York and he defends his belt against Brian Jennings. Why wasn't why wasn't Deontay Wilder in no rush to unify with Wladimir Klitschko? What did Deontay Wilder do? He waited. Deontay Wilder waited for several years until Wladimir Klitschko wasn't irrelevant in boxing anymore. Because back in 2012, back in 2013, when Wladimir Klitschko was relevant, when he was champion, when people were begging him to face Wladimir Klitschko, Deontay Wilder's excuse was that he was too green, and this is why they shouldn't step him up with Wladimir Klitschko. So they waited and waited and waited and waited until he finally lost. Because even when he was a champion, because again, during those 3 years that they were begging him when he was a contender to step his game up and see if you could beat somebody like a Klitschko, who at least is a guy with a pulse. During this time, he became a champion, and then they wanted him to unify with Klitschko, but he didn't do it. He just kept waiting. Unfortunately for Klitschko, during this time, Klitschko was already up there in age, and he ends up losing, and he ends up having one more fight with Anthony Joshua, and then he retires. I know he's been, they've been saying that he wants to come back, maybe, or he's pointing hints that he might come back, but at the end of the day, he's retired now. And Deontay Wilder doesn't have to face him anymore, does he? In my opinion, I believe, it's kind of like deja vu. All right, let me change the subject for a second. It's kind of like deja vu, right? Here we are, 2018, and Deontay Wilder finds himself with a belt, and he finds himself with another champion who has all the other belts. Kind of like back in 2015 when he had his WBC belt and Wladimir Klitschko had all the other belts. And once again, he's in the same position where people want to see him face him. So I personally believe that Deontay Wilder and his team are just waiting to see if maybe Anthony Joshua's downfall happens. Maybe Anthony Joshua ends up losing, because the fact that Anthony Joshua's fighting a lot of tough fights. He might lose one day. And I have a big feeling if he ends up losing before him and Wilder fights, then that's it. That's all she wrote. You're not going to see Deontay Wilder face Anthony Joshua. If Anthony Joshua were to lose, it's over. That's it. No, forget it. That fight's over, especially when it comes to Wilder's side. I'm pretty sure Joshua would probably want to still face Wilder because they're in the same generation, but I'm pretty sure that Deontay Wilder would just be like, you know what, I don't need to face him now because he lost. Right? Because I remember him saying that about Tyson Fury. He said if Tyson Fury were to lose, he wouldn't face him. Right? Kind of like when Wladimir Klitschko lost. He was like, oh, forget about Klitschko. He don't exist anymore because he lost. So the thing about this is another reason why I don't like when these fights take so long to get made. or it takes years to get made. I don't like when a fighter is ducking someone and they make these fights wait so long, because there's always a danger of the fighter losing. And like I said, Anthony Joshua, if he fights Dillian White next, that's a tough fight for Anthony Joshua. Although I'm picking him to win, that's a tough fight for Anthony Joshua. And I really hope that he doesn't end up losing, because like I said, if he ends up losing, and then it's a wrap when it comes to Deontay Wilder. I think that he's just waiting for the right time, right? And I think the right time is when Anthony Joshua is no longer the champion, the unified champion, and when the belts are scattered. Because I could almost guarantee you, oh my God, listen, man, if Anthony Joshua wasn't the unified champion, if he didn't have all the other belts, minus the WBC belt, if let's say the belts were scattered, and other fighters, other heavyweights had portions of the belts, I could almost guarantee you that Wilder would be trying to unify with them and actually unifying with them. I'm telling you right now. But I have this big feeling that he's just not unifying with Joshua because he looks at it as a risky fight. Just like he looked at it, trust me, and his team looked at the Wladimir Klitschko as a really risky fight. As maybe why they didn't want to put him in there when he was a contender. You know, way before he was a champion. Like I said, people been begging Deontay to be facing Mr. Wladimir Klitschko when he was a contender, when he had 30 fights. It wasn't like he was a prospect with 5 fights that you could say, oh, he was too green. He was too green. No, he was a goddamn contender with 30 plus fights. You know, but again, just look at Joshua. The man had 19 fights and he fought Wladimir, but you know, he wasn't too green now, was he? I personally thought that it was too soon for him, but it just goes to show you the character of fighters. Some fighters, it's called having confidence. Anthony Joshua had confidence. He could have said no to facing Wladimir with 19 fights. He said no, but he took it. But you know, as we know, when it comes to Deontay Wilder's team, they don't have confidence in Deontay Wilder, and Deontay Wilder lets his team control him. All right, that's why he has such a shitty resume. Because if Deontay Wilder actually cared about his resume, especially early on in his career, he would have set his team down and said, "Stop feeding me these bums. This is an embarrassment. Everybody's criticizing me. It's saying that I'm picking fights with guys that I'm not supposed to be fighting, and it's making me look bad as a fighter. Put me in there against guys with a post." But he just let his team control his career and put him there against bums and control his destiny, basically. So I just feel like Deontay Wilder is purposely waiting. But like I said, these things backfire eventually, because it could backfire in 2 ways. First of all, it could backfire in the fact that, let's say Joshua doesn't lose, and let's say he keeps winning and winning. What's going to happen is Wilder's going to get up there in age. Right? He's already up there in age, in my opinion. And Wilder's older than Joshua by 4 years. So if he keeps waiting and waiting until Joshua potentially loses, and then he doesn't have to no longer face him because he's no longer a champion, and now he has the L in his record, so now he could use that as an excuse as to why not to fight him. If Joshua ends up if he keeps winning and he ends up, you know, just keep being dominant, like I said, eventually Wilder's just going to, and let's say he waits and then he eventually is forced to face Joshua, he's going to end up just losing because of his age. Or like I said, somebody else might beat him. All right, because there's no guarantee that Joshua will lose. But I think the plan is to wait until Joshua loses, just so he doesn't have to face him anymore. Just so he could just use that as an excuse. It's just a theory, or just an opinion, just what I suspect. Like I said, I suspect it's about Wilder. You know, Wilder's team claimed that they wanted to fight Wladimir and yada yada yada, and this is what they claim. His fans claim that no, the reason he never fought Wladimir was because Wladimir ducked him. Because when somebody doesn't fight Deontay Wilder, it's because they ducked him. Right? That's the excuse. But there's proof all over the interwebs that Deontay Wilder's team were saying he was too green. There are interviews where you see J. Diaz saying, no, he's not ready. He's not ready for Wladimir Klitschko. And by the way, he had like 30 plus fights during that time when he wasn't ready, apparently, right? So there's facts that say that they prove, at least to me, that he could have fought Wladimir. But like I said, I believe his team waited on purpose just to wait until he lost just so they could avoid him. Then, you know, and that ended up happening. So I think they're trying to play the same trick with Mr. AJ. Like I said, it might backfire or it might not. But like I said, I can almost guarantee you, though, if Anthony Joshua were to lose, it's over. You know, or no, you know, Wilder wouldn't fight him. Or if the belts were scattered and other guys were champions, Wilder would be facing those other guys 100%. He wouldn't, but you know, quick too. But anyway, guys, that's to say. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and thumbs the video up. I'm out, guys. Bye-bye.